Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to episode 3 of the Chris and Brick Business Edition. You may notice that Brick is wearing a mask. In the event of trying to stay COVID friendly in the terms of protecting ourselves, I knew that at least one of us should probably have some type of protective covering. Doing the talking makes it a little bit more difficult, so Brick elected to wear his. Today he's sporting his favorite Incredible Hulk mask, so I hope you guys will appreciate his preference in personal protective gear. So today, first of all, I want to acknowledge one thing, that management is, well, it's like throwing darts at a dartboard in terms of where do you begin, because there's so many different aspects of it that are important right at the beginning. But I'm going to take it from this point of view. I'm going to start with the concept of yesterday you weren't and today you are. Transitioning from a member of a team to a leader and a manager, it's a significant event. I mean, a very important transition, and I think it goes without saying. Now, we all generally conduct ourselves, through the lenses that we've been equipped with over the years, and that's including as children and adults. And that the reason why I point this out is because oftentimes there's this belief system that because that's how we came up and that's how we were taught, once we get to a certain stage, that's just who we are. And Brick is actually of the impression, and correct me if I'm wrong, but last time we talked about it, you were of the impression that these are the fixed traits and that people just have to learn to deal with them. Well, I actually disagree, and I believe that an open mind and a healthy sense of humility can transform a person, into an inspirational driver of an organization. And so one of the challenges is that many times people have responsibility thrust upon them and immediately go to triage mode. They immediately feel like they have to, start fixing problems with a little bit of patching up of holes, applying duct tape and hope in some cases. And I think that that methodology has, for whatever reason, continued to be pervasive throughout organizations everywhere, even though I know that many organizations these days will tout their amazing leadership programs and so on and so forth. There is an element, an X factor, if you will, where once, even if that training is complete, when they get back to their duty stations, the people that they may report into may have never actually gone through the same type of training. Or they may not subscribe to it. They may have gone through it but didn't agree with it, and therefore it sort of negates itself, and it makes it more difficult to achieve the outcomes that you want to, in terms of building morale, or increasing productivity, making it feel like an all-inclusive environment, so on and so forth. That being said, I also feel like that there are a few tools, and I'm going to break this up into two parts because they're pretty important, and I think today's episode I'm going to focus specifically on the management aspect of the tools for your toolbox. And these are just a few things that I think are critical. I'm a new manager. These are the things that I ought to have in my toolbox right out of the gate. I've never managed before, or I've managed in a limited capacity before. And so these are the things that I think would really help get you started off on the right foot. So the first thing I would say is attention to detail. You really want to walk in presenting yourself in the right light, meaning pay attention to how you're dressing. I realize I'm in a ball cap and a relatively casual shirt, but I'm also working from home, and I think that that's relatively acceptable now. But there are still elements of knowing your audience and knowing when to essentially dress it up a little bit. It's actually less of a need to impress to me, more so that it indicates to the other party how serious you take, this interaction with them, that you've taken the time to really, polish yourself up a little bit and so on. So, personal appearance, personal interactions, knowing how to separate friendship from, friendship from being a quote unquote superior at that point. Stay visible. Don't hide behind projects. Don't hide behind meetings, spreadsheets. These are my personal biggest pet peeves. But in addition to that, you can always make time. You don't need to get to know every person every day. You can spend 5 minutes with one or two people, maybe one, maybe five. I don't know. It depends on what your schedule's like. But stay visible. They need to know who you are. They need to know you've got their back. They need to know you are the person that they can look to for answers, for some of the tougher questions that come up. Make sure that you and your boss are on the same page. Again, this goes back to the whole concept of, did you both go through the same type of orientation in terms of how we want the company culture to drive the business? Do we both subscribe to that, and do we think that it's effective? And making sure that that's in alignment. That's critical, because if that's not there, it's going to be a bumpy road. What else? Make sure you. This goes back to the sort of the personal interactions, right? You want to make sure that you've set clear boundaries with your team, such that they know the difference between friendship and being a business colleague. You can have an element of friendship in there, but they still need to understand that at the end of the day, the business is what you're there to conduct. And so, they don't get a pass for, failing to meet certain milestones and so forth, just because, you may have common friends or family members that are close to one another. So I think that's an important one, and it's one that oftentimes is blurred pretty consistently, and it needs to be addressed, and not done in a very dry and dry and off-putting way, I guess. So, there are plenty of ways that you can just sort of sit someone down and say, listen, I know we know each other outside of work. When we're at the office, these are the expectations that we're going to have. I'll never treat you disrespectfully here any more than I would if we were outside the office. Let's see. I think probably the last two that I think are really critical are, for number one, is making time for yourself, because you can easily, as a new manager, drive yourself into the ground with too much work. And Brick, I know, agrees with this, and so there are a few elements of this that we do agree upon. Although Brick, like I said, really does believe that once you have established a certain personality, that personality is just who you are. Finally, just keep learning. What you're going to find is that a lot of the people that you have reporting to you that you're responsible for are going to be much more deeply knowledgeable of some of the subject matter, and you should be okay with that. In fact, you should celebrate that, because that means that they're going to make sure you look like a rock star. And if you treat them right, you treat them well, and you give them the recognition they deserve, then it's a win-win for everybody, and it really starts to build your sort of management credibility. What I would ask now is, I would love to get some of your thoughts. What are some of the things you think should be in your tool bag as a new manager, or that you would want for some of your new managers in their tool bag right out of the gate? And, feel free to put them in the comments. I'd love to hear some exchanges and some interactions. The second part of this I'm going to address in tomorrow's episode, which will be around the actual leadership portion, which is completely different. It has a lot more to do with, thinking, planning, solving problems, setting the agenda, doing the things that, indicate that you're actually running the business. So thank you all for tuning in for today, and I look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow. Have a good day.